4. Today we're going to be talking about scale drawings and models. So a scale drawing is used to represent an object that's too large or too small to be drawn to size. So it's proportional to the original. Like for example, if you are an architect and you are making a sketch of the building that you're going to have built, then you have to make it obviously a smaller sketch. But it has to be proportional. So like the certain size and the width are proportional to the size and width of the future building that you're going to be making. Sometimes items are too small, like if you're drawing a diagram or something of a cell or of a germ or something like that that is really small that we can't even see, you're obviously going to have to blow it up so that we can see the different parts. Okay, so a scale is basically what we're going to be using to compare the original to the model. So a scale is the ratio given the length of the model to the original. So basically, like for example, it'll be like 1 inch equals 30 feet. So it's just telling your the person who's looking at your model how it's proportional to the original. Now, a scale factor is a little bit different from a scale. So in the scale, we have 1 inch equals 30 feet. Now, when we go to a scale factor, you can't have two different units like inches and feet. Everything has to be all in one unit. So you'll have to use the same unit, and when the scale factor is written in simplest form. So basically, you're taking the scale, you're making the units the same, and then you're putting it in simplest form. So, for example, if you have 2 inches equals 16 inches, then you will go ahead and simplify your ratio to 1 inch equals 8 inches by dividing a 2 out of both. Okay? So let's go ahead and do some practice. We're going to be identifying the scales and the scale factors, and also using scales and scale factors to figure out what the original size or height is, okay? So let's go ahead and do some examples. Number 1, I went ahead and I split into 2 parts, A and B, because both of these examples have to do with the scale factor or scale of 1 inch to 20 miles. So basically, both of these are talking about referencing a map. So a map is a very common way of using a scale or something, because obviously it has to be smaller for us to be able to see the whole map or the whole area where we're going. So basically letter A, we're doing the distance from Florence to Columbia is 4 inches. So what we're going to find is how far is it really between Florence and Columbia. So if 4 inches, basically what we're going to be doing here is using proportions like we did in our last lesson. So we have 1 inch equals 20 miles, like our scale says, equals 4 inches for X miles. So we're going to be solving that for the missing part of our proportion like we did in the last lesson. So you can do 2 things. First thing, you can figure out, okay, well, what do you multiply this by to get over here, and then do the same down here. We could do that, or we could do cross multiplication. So either way, I'll do it both ways really quickly. So if we're going to do cross multiplication, we'll look like this. So 1 times x, which gives us x, equals 4 times 20. So we'll have 4 times 20, which is going to give us x is equal to 80 miles. So this is by using cross multiplication. The other way is by saying, okay, well, 1 times what is going to give me 4 inches? And so if I do times 4, I'm going to get 4 inches. So if I do here, if I do 20 times 4, then I'm going to get 80 inches, or 80 miles. So either way you want to do it, will give you the right answer. Okay, for B, we're talking about the distance between Myrtle Beach and Greenville. So basically we're going to go ahead and write our scale, which is 1 inch equals 1 inch over 20 miles is equal to, in this case, 12 1/2 of an inch, and then x here. So we're trying to figure out how many miles is it really between Myrtle Beach and Greenville by looking at our map and our scale and using our scale. So we can do it 2 ways. First of all, figure out what do we multiply 1 by to get to 12 1/2, and then we would do the same in the denominator to figure out what x is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that way first this time. So 1 times 12.5 is going to give you 12 1/2. So if I do 20 times 12.5, I'm going to get whatever x is equal to. So I could do 12.5 times 20. I'm going to get 0, then we have 10, we have 2 times 2, which gives you 4, plus 1, which gives you 5, 2 times 1, which gives you 2, We have 1 decimal place here, so we could use this method to figure out that it's 250 miles between the two cities, or we could do cross multiplication. So we could look at it like this: 1 times x, which gives you x equals 20 times 12.5 will give you 250. So either way, you'll figure out that the distance between the two cities is 250 miles. Alright, let's go ahead and look at example number 2. We have 2 parts to this one as well because both of these have to do with this information up here. So on a scale model of the statue of Zeus, the height of Zeus is 8 inches. So let's use that information. If the scale, the height is 8 inches, we're going to go ahead and figure out what the scale is between the two. So if the actual height is 40 feet, what is the scale of the statue? So if we have 8 inches is the height of the model, and we have the height of the actual statue is 40 feet. We write 8 inches to 40 feet, and then we'll simplify it. So we can go ahead and divide 8 out of both and get 1 inch is equal to 40 divided by 8, which gives you 5 feet. So our scale is 1 inches to 5 feet. Now, what is the scale factor? So if you remember what we just talked about when we were looking at the front of the board, we talked about that inches and feet, whenever you're talking about a scale factor, you need the same unit. So what we're going to go ahead and do is change the units. So right now we have 1 inch is equal to 5 feet, but we need to go ahead and change the feet to inches so that we can have inches to inches. So since there are 12 inches in 1 foot, I'm going to go ahead and multiply my denominator by 12 to change my feet to inches. So now I have 1 inch is equal to 60 inches. So this would be our simplified scale factor. Alright, go ahead and rewatch the video if you have any questions. You can also go back into your textbook and look at some examples that have already been done for you. And you can also bring in some questions to class tomorrow and I'll be happy to answer those for you. Let's go ahead and do some on your own questions. Alright, you have a few problems to do for me. For number 1, parts A, B, and C all have to do with using the same information that is next to number 1. So the scale factor of 1/2 an inch is equal to 9 feet. You're going to use that information and apply it to A, B, and C. Number 2, you're finding the scale factor. And number 3, you are finding the scale of the drawing. So not the scale factor, but just the scale. Alright, good luck. We'll see what you get tomorrow.